Have you ever stopped to wonder, who is the mind actually talking to? It's a simple question, but its implications are profound, so profound, in fact, that the moment you uncover the answer, everything changes. Think about it. Your mind never stops talking. It's like an endless stream of thoughts, memories, worries, plans, and commentary, all flowing one after the other. But here's the strange part. If the mind is constantly talking, who is it talking to? Is it you? We live our lives caught in this inner dialogue, believing it defines who we are. I feel this way. I need to do that. Why did they say that to me? We take these thoughts so personally, as if they're addressing a real, solid me. But have you ever paused to truly investigate what this me really is? Imagine for a moment you're standing in front of a mirror. You see a reflection, and you think, that's me. But is it? What if the reflection isn't the whole picture? What if you're not just the thoughts, the emotions, or the story the mind keeps repeating? This simple yet profound question, who is the mind talking to, is the key to breaking free from the illusion. And once you see through it, you'll uncover something extraordinary, the silent witness within you, the pure awareness that has always been there, observing it all. The mind, it's like a master illusionist. It weaves a constant story about who you are, what you need, and why you feel the way you do. It's relentless. Think about it. How often do you find yourself lost in thought, replaying the past, worrying about the future, or narrating your present moment like a personal movie? But here's the truth. This story isn't real. It's a carefully constructed illusion. And the mind's greatest trick? Convincing you it's the star of the show. Let me tell you a story you might already know, a story that perfectly illustrates the mind's illusion. Have you heard the tale of the emperor's new clothes? The emperor was so consumed by his vanity, so convinced by the story told to him by two cunning weavers, that he paraded through his kingdom wearing nothing at all. The illusion was so powerful that everyone played along, too afraid to question what was right in front of them. It wasn't until a child with no stake in the illusion blurted out the truth. The emperor isn't wearing any clothes. Our minds are just like that emperor. They parade around, creating identities, fears, and desires, while we rarely stop to ask, is this real? Here's how it works. Imagine you have a thought, I'm not good enough. Now, instead of seeing this as just a passing cloud in the sky of your mind, you grab onto it. I'm not good enough suddenly becomes your truth. The mind starts weaving stories around it. I failed that interview last week, or remember when they laughed at me in high school. Before you know it, you're living as if this thought defines who you are. But pause for a second. If a different thought had arisen, say, I'm unstoppable, your story would look entirely different, wouldn't it? So which one is true? Neither. They're just thoughts like waves on the ocean, rising and falling within your awareness. Yet we believe these stories because the mind speaks in a way that feels personal. It says I, and we believe it. I'm scared. I'm hurt. I'm right. But have you ever stopped to ask, who is this I? Who is the mind talking to? Here's where it gets even more fascinating. The mind loves to play both the hero and the villain. It'll tell you, you're not enough, and then swoop in and say, but don't worry, here's how we fix it. It creates the problem and offers the solution, keeping you trapped in its endless loop. Let's take another story, a modern one this time. Have you ever seen The Matrix? In it, Neo lives his life believing everything he experiences is real. But then he learns the shocking truth. It's all a simulation. The world he thought was solid and real was nothing more than a construct of the mind. This is exactly how the mind works. It creates a matrix of thoughts, emotions, and identities that feel incredibly real. But when you look closely, when you start to question it, you realize it's all just mental chatter. The me you thought you were, it's part of the illusion. Here's an experiment to try. Close your eyes and listen to your thoughts for a moment. You'll notice something remarkable. Thoughts arise on their own without your control. They're like bubbles floating to the surface of a pond. But who's watching them? Who's aware of these thoughts? This is the first step to breaking free from the mind's illusion. You start to see that you're not the thoughts themselves. You're the one witnessing them. And when you see this, the mind's power begins to fade. The story it tells about who you are, what you need, and what you lack becomes just that, a story. But let's not stop there. Because while the mind's illusion is captivating, the truth that lies beyond it is even more profound. And that's where we're headed next. So if the mind is this master storyteller, endlessly spinning tales, what happens when we stop believing the story? What remains? Imagine this, you're at a bustling train station. Trains come and go, each one headed to a different destination. Some are labeled regret, some fear, others hope or excitement. Most people hop on a train without thinking. They're swept away by it. But what if, instead of boarding the train, you stood still and simply watched the trains come and go? You'd realize something incredible. You're not the trains. You're the one standing on the platform, observing them. This is what it means to discover the witness within. You are not the thoughts rushing through your mind. You are the awareness watching them. Let me share a famous story you've probably heard, the tale of the two wolves. A wise Cherokee elder tells his grandson, inside every person, there's a battle between two wolves. One wolf represents anger, greed, jealousy, and fear. The other represents love, kindness, compassion, and peace. The grandson asks, which wolf wins? The elder replies, the one you feed. But what if we've been looking at this story the wrong way? What if you're not either wolf? What if you're the one watching the battle? The one aware of the anger, the kindness, the fear, the peace. This changes everything. You see, the moment you stop identifying with the wolves, the battle itself begins to dissolve. Here's another way to think about it. Remember when you were a kid, lying in bed at night, and you'd notice the shadows on the wall. Maybe the shadow of a tree branch looked like a monster, and it terrified you. But then you turned on the light and realized it was just a tree all along. The fear vanished the moment you saw the truth. The mind works the same way. It casts shadows, thoughts and emotions that seem so real, so solid. But when you turn the light of awareness onto them, you see them for what they really are, fleeting, insubstantial, like shadows on a wall. Here's a powerful practice to try. Sit quietly and notice your thoughts. Don't judge them. Don't fight them. Just watch. A thought might arise, I'm not good enough. Pause and ask, who is aware of this thought? A moment later, another thought might appear, I'm feeling anxious. Again, ask, who is noticing this anxiety? What you'll find is astonishing. No matter what arises, whether it's a thought, an emotion, or a sensation, there's something constant behind it all. A silent, still awareness that simply watches. To make this clearer, let me take you to one of the most famous moments in literature, the scene in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry faces the Dementors. The Dementors feed on fear, dragging their victims into despair. But how does Harry overcome them? By conjuring a Patronus, a pure, bright force of light. The key? Harry doesn't fight the darkness. He focuses on the light within him. The witness within you is your Patronus. It's not afraid of the mind's chatter or the emotions that come and go. It doesn't get tangled in the storylines. It simply observes, untouched by the chaos. Let me share one more metaphor. Think of the sky. On any given day, it might be cloudy, stormy, or clear. But no matter what the weather looks like, the sky itself doesn't change. It's always there, vast and untouched, holding it all. You are the sky. Your thoughts and emotions, they're just the weather passing through. And here's the magic of living as the witness. When you stop identifying with the storms, you stop trying to control them. You let the rain fall, the wind blow, the sun shine, all without losing your sense of peace. This is what the great sages and mystics have been pointing to for centuries. In the words of Rumi, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. That awareness within you, the silent witness, is infinite. It's who you truly are. Now, you might be wondering, if I'm the witness, does that mean I'm just sitting back, detached from life, like an observer in the stands? Not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. When you live as the witness, you engage with life more fully. You're no longer reacting out of fear, ego, or old patterns. Instead, you respond with clarity, wisdom, and presence. Think of a great athlete, someone like Serena Williams or Lionel Messi. When they're in their flow state, they're not caught up in overthinking. They're fully present, completely aware, yet unshaken by the highs and lows. That's what living as the witness feels like. So who is the mind talking to? It's not talking to you. It's talking to itself. And you're the one quietly watching, beyond the noise, beyond the stories. The moment you realize this, you begin to live from a place of freedom and peace, no longer bound by the illusions of the mind. So far, we've seen how the mind creates an illusion and how the witness within can observe it all. But here's the real challenge: breaking free from the illusion entirely. Let's take a step back. Have you ever had a moment where time seemed to stop? Maybe you were watching a sunset, holding a loved one's hand, or lost in the beauty of a piece of music. In that moment, there was no past, no future, just now. And it felt perfect, didn't it? These moments aren't random. They're glimpses of your true nature, the part of you that exists beyond the mind's constant chatter. As Eckhart Tolle writes in The Power of Now, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. But here's where the mind pulls its sneakiest trick. It drags you out of the now. It says, what about that mistake you made last week? Or what if things don't work out tomorrow? Suddenly, you're caught in the illusion again, lost in thoughts about the past or future. Let me tell you a story you've likely heard before. The tale of Sisyphus. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was condemned to push a giant boulder up a hill, only to have it roll back down every time he reached the top, over and over for eternity. Sound familiar? That's what it feels like to live inside the mind's illusion, constantly striving, worrying, and chasing, but never truly arriving. But here's the twist. What if Sisyphus realized he didn't have to push the boulder? What if he simply stepped back and watched it roll? That's what breaking the illusion feels like. It's the moment you stop identifying with the mind's endless narrative and realize you are already free. Eckhart Tolle calls this stepping out of psychological time. The mind thrives on time. It clings to the past, fears the future, and distracts you from the present. But when you anchor yourself in the now, the illusion starts to crumble. Here's an example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. The mind starts its usual story. This is so unfair. I'm going to be late. Why is this always happening to me? But instead of believing the story, you pause. You take a deep breath. You notice the sky, the feel of the steering wheel, the sound of the cars around you. Suddenly, you're not in the mind's drama, you're simply here. Breaking the illusion doesn't mean the thoughts stop. It means you stop getting lost in them. You see them for what they are, like clouds passing through the sky. Let's bring in another well-known story, The Lion King. Remember the moment when Simba, haunted by his past, sees his father Mufasa in the sky. Mufasa says, "You have forgotten who you are." That's what the mind does. It makes you forget your true nature. But the moment Simba remembers, he steps into his power. In the same way, breaking the mind's illusion is about remembering who you are. Not the thoughts, not the stories, but the awareness beneath it all. Here's a practical way to start. The next time you catch yourself lost in thought, ask, what's real right now? Not what your mind says is real, but what you can directly experience. The sensation of your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you. This is the doorway out of the illusion, back to the present moment. Eckhart Tolle calls this watching the thinker. When you observe your thoughts instead of identifying with them, something shifts. You realize that the voice in your head is just a voice. It's not you. Let me share one more story, one that's been shared for centuries. The Buddha and the Rope. A man came to the Buddha, saying he felt trapped by his thoughts and emotions. The Buddha handed him a piece of rope and said, "Hold this tightly." The man did. The Buddha then asked, "Now let it go." The man let go, and the rope fell. The Buddha smiled and said, "That is freedom. Breaking the illusion is just like that. It's not about fighting the mind or trying to silence it. It's about letting go of your grip on the thoughts and stories. The tighter you hold on, the more trapped you feel. But the moment you release, you discover the freedom that was always there. So how do you break the illusion? You don't fight it. You don't run from it. You simply see it for what it is, a story told by the mind. When you rest in the now, when you live as the silent witness, the mind's power begins to fade. And here's the beautiful thing: the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. At first, you might catch yourself falling into the illusion after hours or even days. But over time, you'll notice it sooner and sooner, until eventually it feels natural to live as the awareness beyond the mind. Remember, the mind can only trap you if you believe its story. But when you stay rooted in the now, when you let go of the rope, you find something extraordinary: peace, freedom, and the realization that you were never truly trapped at all. Breaking the illusion is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you've always been. As Eckhart Tolle says, you are the light of consciousness. You are the observer of the mind's drama. You are the now itself. So ask yourself, what's real right now? This is your key to freedom. So now you've started to see through the illusion of the mind. You've realized that you are not the thoughts, the emotions, or even the stories the mind tells. But what does life look like when you fully live as the witness? Living as the witness isn't about retreating from life or becoming detached. It's about stepping into life fully, clear, present, and unshaken. It's about living with a freedom that no circumstance can take away. Think about The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. In it, Singer explains that most people live like a person clinging to a thorn. Every time they move, they feel pain, so they try to avoid it by protecting the thorn. But Singer asks, what if you simply let the thorn go? This is what living as the witness feels like. Instead of holding on to every thought, emotion, or story, you simply observe them. You don't push them away or cling to them. You let them flow through you, like a river passing by. Let me illustrate this with a story you might know. Frodo and the One Ring from The Lord of the Rings. Frodo carries the ring, which represents all-consuming power and ego. The more he clings to it, the heavier it becomes, and the more it consumes him. But in the end, Frodo's true strength comes not from holding on to the ring, but from letting it go. When you live as the witness, you let go of the mind's ring, the constant need to control, to cling, to label everything as good or bad. And what happens then? You become lighter, freer. You begin to experience life as it truly is, not as the mind tells you it should be. Now, this doesn't mean life suddenly becomes perfect or easy. Challenges still arise, emotions still flow, and thoughts still come. But the difference is this: you're no longer trapped in the storm. You're the sky, vast and unshaken, holding space for everything to come and go. Here's another story to bring this to life: the tale of the storm and the tree. In the midst of a fierce storm, a small tree stands tall. Its branches sway, its leaves scatter, but its roots run deep. It doesn't resist the storm, it moves with it. And when the storm passes, the tree is still standing. When you live as the witness, you're like that tree. You don't fight the storms of life, anger, fear, sadness, or even joy. You allow them to pass through you, knowing that they're temporary. You stay rooted in the awareness that you are something deeper, something unshaken. Michael Singer describes this beautifully in The Untethered Soul. Let go of the pull to defend or resist. Relax and release. When you do this, you stop living from a place of fear or control, and you start living from a place of flow. Here's another story to bring this to life: the tale of the storm and the tree. In the midst of a fierce storm, a small tree stands tall. Its branches sway, its leaves scatter, but its roots run deep. It doesn't resist the storm, it moves with it. And when the storm passes, the tree is still standing. When you live as the witness, you're like that tree. You don't fight the storms of life, anger, fear, sadness, or even joy. You allow them to pass through you, knowing that they're temporary. You stay rooted in the awareness that you are something deeper, something unshaken. Michael Singer describes this beautifully in The Untethered Soul. Let go of the pull to defend or resist. Relax and release. When you do this, you stop living from a place of fear or control, and you start living from a place of flow. Another powerful metaphor is that of a movie theater. Imagine you're watching an intense scene on screen, a car chase, an emotional breakup, or a thrilling twist. For a moment, you're so absorbed that you forget you're sitting in a theater. But then you step back and remember, you're just watching the movie. The screen isn't real, you are. When you live as the witness, life is like that movie. You still experience it fully, the ups, the downs, the twists, but you don't lose yourself in it. You know you're the one watching, not the story being played out. And here's where it gets truly transformative. When you stop identifying with the mind, you create space for something deeper to arise: authenticity, creativity, and love. You stop living from a place of fear or ego and start living from your true essence. Think of Iron Man. Tony Stark starts his journey as a self-centered genius, driven by ego and ambition. But as he grows, he learns to live beyond the mind story of who he is. He starts making choices from a place of love and selflessness, ultimately becoming the hero he was meant to be. Living as the witness doesn't mean you stop participating in life. It means you participate more fully, without the baggage of fear, judgment, or attachment. You show up with clarity, presence, and purpose, knowing that who you are isn't tied to any role or outcome. As Michael Singer says, the key to happiness is quite simple. Let go of what you think you need to be happy. When you live as the witness, you stop chasing happiness and start being happiness. So here's the takeaway. Life will always have its storms, its challenges, its fleeting moments of joy. But when you live as the witness, you're no longer at the mercy of these waves. You're the ocean itself, vast, deep, and free. Living as the witness is not about escaping life. It's about embracing it fully and completely as the infinite awareness that you are. So now, let's step back and look at the journey we've taken together. We started by questioning one simple thing: who is the mind talking to? That question opened the door to a deeper truth, one that has been hiding in plain sight all along. We've seen how the mind creates its illusions, weaving stories that feel so real, yet dissolve the moment we look closely. We've explored the silent witness within us, the part of us that's always watching, untouched by the chaos. And we've learned how living as this witness isn't about escaping life, but about embracing it with clarity, presence, and freedom. But where does this leave you? What does all of this mean for your life right here, right now? Here's the truth. Nothing needs to change for you to experience this freedom. You don't need to fix the mind, silence your thoughts, or perfect your circumstances. The witness, the awareness that sees everything, is already here. It's always been here, quietly observing, waiting for you to notice it. Think of a glass of muddy water. When it's shaken, the mud swirls everywhere, making it impossible to see clearly. But when you set the glass down and let it be, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. Your mind is like that glass of water. You don't need to force it to settle. You just need to step back and observe. This clarity is available to you in every moment. Even now, as you listen to these words, you can sense it. The stillness beneath your thoughts, the spaciousness within which everything arises. That's you. That's who you truly are. Let me leave you with a story to bring this home. Imagine a wave in the ocean. It rises, crests, and crashes back down, thinking I'm just a wave. I'm separate. I need to fight to stay afloat. But what if that wave realized it was never separate from the ocean? That it is the ocean? It would no longer fear rising or falling. It would simply flow. You are not the fleeting wave of thoughts, emotions, or identities. You are the vast, limitless ocean of awareness beneath it all. And when you live from this place, Life becomes lighter, freer. You stop clinging, fearing, or striving. You simply flow. Now let's make this practical. The next time you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts, pause and ask yourself, who is aware of this? Not in a judgmental way, but with curiosity. Feel the space between you and the thought. Recognize that you are not the thought. You are the awareness watching it. And remember, this isn't about perfection. There will be moments when you get caught in the mind's illusions again. That's okay. Each time you notice, you return to the present, to the witness within you. With practice, this awareness becomes second nature. Think of this as your life's greatest adventure, not climbing the highest mountain or achieving some grand goal, but discovering the truth of who you are. As the great poet Rumi said, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" Living as the witness is about spreading those wings. It's about soaring above the stories and finding freedom in the now. It's about remembering that you are not the mind's chatter, nor the roles you play, nor the labels the world gives you. You are something far greater, far deeper, and far more beautiful. So, as we close this journey, take a deep breath. Feel the life within you, the awareness that's always present. Let it remind you of what's real, of what's true. And if this message has touched you, if it sparked even the smallest glimpse of freedom, share it with someone you love. Let's spread this light together. Because the question, who is the mind talking to, isn't just a question. It's an invitation to wake up, to let go, and to live fully as the witness you were always meant to be. Thank you for being here. Thank you for exploring this truth. And as always, remember, you are not the mind's story. You are the silent, eternal witness beyond it all.